revealed how a desperate hug from a heartbroken woman transformed a billionaire's life forever. The cold wind whipped through the streets of Chicago, biting at Sarah's cheeks as she stepped out of the diner after her shift. The neon lights flickered above, a garish reminder of the life she was barely holding together. She wiped the fresh tears from her eyes. Feeling overwhelmed, the grease-stained uniform felt like a straitjacket, one more burden added to her already heavy load. She was simply trying to scrape by, working late into the night at the diner and early mornings cleaning office buildings. Each day felt like one more drop in a bucket that never seemed to fill. Her two kids, spirited and active, relied on her in a way that only amplified her fear of failure. As she turned a corner, her preoccupied mind sent her colliding into Jake. He was an imposing figure against the city's bright skyline, his designer suit and sharp features betraying his billionaire status. She barely registered the moment, a quick exchange of startled glances before the world collapsed around her, a heated flood of anguish spilling forth, her loneliness laid bare. "Can I have a hug?" she blurted out, her voice cracking. The question startled Jake, leaving him momentarily paralyzed, processing her vulnerability. He felt her sorrow radiate from her, gnawing at the senses dulled by an existence wrapped in corporate ambition. The embrace was brief, but in that instant, Sarah's warmth ignited something deep within him. For Jake, the lavish life of penthouses, high stakes, and ambitious meetings felt stifling, a gilded cage filled with the echoes of his own loneliness. A wave of discomfort stirred in Sarah. Her instinct to reach out for warmth exposed yet another layer of herself. How had it come to this? Asking for a hug from a perfect stranger. Would he look down on her, judge her as weak? She had worked so hard to show her children the value of strength. And yet, in this fleeting moment, she let herself surrender to the raw need for connection. Was this what desperation felt like? A side of herself that screamed to be seen, yet feared being deemed unworthy of love and understanding. Before they parted ways, Jake was haunted by a question he had long avoided. What was the meaning of success? It was clear now that his wealth hadn't shielded him from emptiness. As he walked back into his world of towering skyscrapers, he felt the weight of the banana republics he had built from nothing. Each decision that led him away from love weighed heavier. The boardroom stakes began to taste like ashes in his mouth. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But days turned into weeks, and the tension grew. As Jake's connection to Sarah deepened, he faced the moral dilemma of his life. Continue with the corporate ambitions that brought him hollow accolades, or step into a realm that could challenge everything he thought he wanted. Sarah's life became a bright, sharp line against his own. She carved paths to simple joys and authentic connections that only reminded him of his isolation. At home, Sarah grappled with the prospect of embracing her newfound entrepreneurial spirit, ignited by the fleeting warmth of Jake's affection. But as she considered pursuing her dream, a shadow loomed. Would she invite ruin into her life, or the children's? Would they flounder amid whispers of her aspirations, becoming targets in a world that valued wealth over heart? The stakes kept rising, her spiraling fears tangled tighter and tighter. Just as Jake's internal conflict reached its peak, a board member threatened funding tied to him, hinting at dire consequences if he continued seeking something more meaningful in life. As their worlds intersected, pressures intensified, and both began to wonder just how far they would go for the sake of their newfound connection. Would they risk it all, defy the status quo, and fight for something real? Or would their fragile hope collapse under the weight of societal expectations? The impending storm loomed, ready to unravel their fragile bond before it had a chance to blossom. The sun peeked through the clouds the next morning, casting muted rays across Chicago's skyline. Sarah stood by her kitchen table, the faint smell of burnt toast lingering in the air. She shuffled through the bills piled on the counter, each one a physical manifestation of her anxiety. The urge to escape the suffocating grip of her daily grind clawed at her insides. but the fear of uncertainty held her captive. At that moment, her phone buzzed with a notification, a message from an unfamiliar number. "Hey, this is Jake. I hope you're okay. I wanted to check in after our last encounter." Sarah's heart raced. It was unexpected, yet profoundly welcome. His concern sparked a flicker of hope within her, but it quickly dimmed under a barrage of doubts. What could a billionaire want with someone like her? She contemplated her response, unsure if she should be honored or wary. Despite the uncertainty, she felt a primal need to connect something deeper than mere surface pleasantries. She typed back a simple, "I'm okay, just busy trying to make ends meet." With a deep breath, she pressed send and waited, anxiety dancing in her stomach. As the minutes ticked by, Sarah's fingers itched to distract themselves, scrubbing pots and pans, wiping surfaces with a sense of urgency. Jake's message felt like a lifeline thrown into her turbulent sea of worries, yet it also brought the risk of exposing her vulnerabilities. Could she truly transcend beyond the life she had known? What if Jake was merely intrigued by her fleeting moment of desperation? A ping from her phone jolted her back to reality. "I know you work hard, but I'd love to meet up, maybe to discuss any ideas you might have." Intrigued yet cautious, Sarah felt layers of herself peel back, revealing her entrepreneurial aspirations that had lain dormant, smothered by doubt. She pondered over his invitation, staring out the window at children playing in the park. The laughter echoed her own unfulfilled dreams. Could she muster the courage to articulate her ambitions? Could she step beyond the shadows of her past mistakes? As self-doubt reared its head, she clenched her fists, deciding that this was an opportunity rather than a threat. "Sure, I'd like to meet," she typed, her heart pounding with the thrill of courage mixed with fear. Meanwhile, across town in his sleek office, Jake found himself restlessly pacing. Sarah's message ignited a fire he hadn't realized had dimmed. The encounter continued to resonate, reminding him of all he had sacrificed for his success. Risking everything for something profound had been the elusive dream, and now here he was, drawn to her authenticity, the very essence he had forsaken in pursuit of power. He needed to prepare for their meeting, to approach it with the earnestness she deserved. In his mind, he reconsidered every aspect, how this could potentially alter the trajectory of their lives. His focus shifted from corporate ambition to personal fulfillment, and the tension within him began to crack, revealing the potential for a different kind of success rooted in connection and understanding. The day of their meeting arrived. Sarah stood before her mirror, her reflection a patchwork of aspirations and fears. Clad in a simple dress that felt strikingly different from her usual attire, she hesitated. What if this was too bold? What if she exposed herself in ways too raw for Jake to comprehend? One glance at the drawing her daughter had made, Mommy's dreams scrawled across the top, pushed her forward. She stepped into the cafe, where Jake sat at a corner table, looking contemplative, his sharp features softened by expectation. The moment she entered, a pulse of recognition rippled through the air, but reality loomed just behind the thrill of possibility. "Hey," Jake greeted, a tentative smile breaking through his well-crafted veneer. "Hi. Thanks for meeting me," Sarah replied, her heart pounding, each beat filling the silence with a tangle of anxiety and anticipation. As they exchanged pleasantries, the underlying question hung thick between them. Would they dare to unveil the truths of their lives, or would fear bind them to their respective cages? The stakes weren't just about a business idea or corporate controversy. This was about their very sense of selves. Sarah felt the urgency pulse through her veins. Just as the fragile conversation began to grow, a shadow fell upon them. Jake's board member, lurking just behind the door, eyes narrowed, threatening to expose their budding connection to the harsh glare of worldliness and skepticism. Time hung heavy, waiting to reveal whether their resolve could withstand the looming pressure, and whether a blurred line could be drawn between desperation and hope. Jake's presence seemed to anchor Sarah, yet his board member's gaze was a cold wind, chilling her rising confidence. The brief smile on Jake's face faltered as he caught sight of his colleague, casting a fleeting shadow over their connection. "I think we should talk somewhere private," Jake suggested, the warmth of his voice lingering even as his eyes darted toward the intruder. "Yeah, sure," Sarah replied, her pulse quickening. She could feel the weight of judgment looming over them, a scrutiny that threatened to rebuke the very essence of their meeting. It terrified her to think that her fragile hopes could be scrutinized and ridiculed by someone who likely thrived on corporate hostility. The moment he beckoned her toward a quieter corner, Sarah hesitated. Was she ready to untangle her aspirations from the mass of fear and uncertainty? What if everything collapses again? She wondered silently, trying to steady her breath amidst the mounting pressure. As they settled into a secluded booth, she finally exhaled, a mix of determination and vulnerability swirling within her. Jake leaned in, his scrutiny softened by genuine interest. "I want to hear about your ideas," he said, sincerity ringing clear. It was the echo of encouragement she desperately needed. She opened her mouth to speak, but words seemed to fail her. This meeting was not just about career ambitions. It was about revealing the deep-rooted desires she had suppressed for so long. "Okay, I'll start," Sarah said, quickly noticing her voice trembled slightly. "I've been thinking about creating a platform that connects small artisans directly to consumers. A marketplace that champions local craftsmanship and sustainability while offering a unique, curated experience. I don't know if I can really do it." There she was, bearing her dreams. And yet something held her back. The magnitude of revealing her innermost aspirations felt like exposing a raw nerve. Jake listened intently, leaning back, absorbing her vision. There was no trace of condescension, rather, an interest that felt profoundly affirming. "That's a brilliant idea," he responded, his voice rich with encouragement. "But why don't you think you can do it?" The question stabbed deeper than she had anticipated. Was it the fear of failure? The residue of past setbacks? "I've never really been given the chance," she admitted, a tinge of vulnerability creeping into her tone. "Life just happened and I got lost in it." For a moment, Jake sat in thoughtful silence, his own past whirling through his mind, threading through their conversation like fine gold wire. "We often box ourselves in, don't we?" he reflected, before leaning forward, earnestness in his gaze. "But the world deserves your vision." Sarah's eyes widened, allowing the richness of his affirmation to penetrate her walls. Could this be the moment she finally peeled back the layers and dared to pursue her ambitions? The thought lingered, heavy yet exhilarating. But the oppressive weight from the board member outside still loomed larger. Glancing over her shoulder, she caught a glimmer in his eyes, satisfaction from observing a potential exploitation of power dynamics. The disapproval radiating from the man made her question whether this meeting was judicious at all. She wrestled with the gravity of capital versus integrity, feeling a knot of conflict within. "Maybe it's a bad idea," she blurted, dread rippling through her as she withdrew into uncertainty. Jake reached across the table, capturing her hands and his an anchor against her retreat. "No, you can't let fear dictate your path," he asserted, an intensity brewing in his tone that shook her from her self-doubt. For the first time, she had a voice. Yet something still felt precariously unbalanced, as though mere words could unravel everything she sought to build. Just then, Jake's phone buzzed softly on the table, a sharp reminder of their realities. He glanced at the screen, his expression shifting to one of irritation. "I have a meeting in 20. It'll have to wait," he said, a shift toward professional urgency. Seeping back into their conversation, pulling the moment back into a different kind of reality. They had only begun to scratch the surface of what lay ahead, and she felt the sand slipping through her fingers as pressure bore down again. As she searched his eyes for reassurance, she realized that their burgeoning connection was about to face its ultimate test. Would she find the strength to delve into the depths of her dreams, or would the encroaching tide of doubt eclipse this opportunity once more? "Let us continue this later," he said. "I want to help you." She wondered what kind of help he could truly offer and what it would reveal of both their lives, as the clock ticked ominously closer. "Even if the board finds out?" she asked, every word laced with uncertainty. Jake took a deep breath, his resolve solidifying. "Then we rise together. The time has come to face that fear head-on." But beneath the surface, the unspoken tension crackled. What if this connection, once so tender, was nothing but a spark ready to ignite the flames of consequence? What did facing their fears entail, and was either truly ready for the battle ahead? As Jake left for his meeting, the space around Sarah felt both foreign and suffocating, expanding into an echo chamber of her unresolved aspirations. She watched him walk away, his confident stride illustrating a path she yearned to follow yet felt unprepared to tread. It dawned on her then. His departure wasn't just physical. It symbolized the return of her insecurities, swirling anxiously within her mind. The ideas she had divulged, the flicker of hope, could she truly sustain the momentum that Jake ignited? She wrapped her arms around herself. The warmth of his presence faded, replaced by a chill of self-doubt. Would anyone care about her platform? The apprehension hung like fog, obscuring the clarity she had briefly acquired. Was her vision merely a naive dream, or something tangible that could bridge her passion with purpose? Life had allowed those dreams to seem less plausible, and she had tucked them away behind layers of pragmatism. But now, as the echoes of their conversation replayed in her head, Sarah felt a flicker of rebellion against that self-imposed limitation. What if she could try? What if she could discover that she had more within her than she ever thought? Her breath quickened as she pulled out her notebook, pages filled with scattered ideas. The platform concept needed structure, and suddenly, her hands itched to outline a plan. Would it be enough? Only one way to find out. She couldn't let the approach of doubt close this window of opportunity again. With each stroke of the pen, she transformed intangible thoughts into concrete strategies. She envisioned the artisans, each possessing a passion that mirrored her own, their craftsmanship waiting to be unveiled. She wrote down practical steps, formulating a vision that could breathe life into her ideas. The creative energy surged through her, igniting a determination she had long believed extinguished. However, reality crawled back, hovering in the background, reminding her of potential pitfalls. What will the board say? What if they dismiss it as folly? Their skepticism clutched at her throat, threatening to strangle the resolve she had fostered. Sarah paused, the pen hovering over the page. Was fear of judgment enough to silence her voice? To risk losing the connection she slowly developed with Jake, the one person who saw her as she wished to be seen? She looked at her notes, the ink shining brightly as she considered their significance. Suddenly, she remembered something Jake had said. You can't let fear dictate your path. It reverberated in her mind as a clarion call. The specter of failure loomed, but hadn't she learned that failure also bore lessons? Perhaps this time, it could gift her resilience instead of defeat. In that moment of quiet empowerment, something within her shifted. Sarah stood up decisively, folded her notes, and slipped them into her bag. She had a purpose now, a mission that demanded research, outreach, and perhaps vulnerability. She would need to connect with artisans. They might have stories that echoed her own. As she stepped away from the booth and navigated through the bustling crowd, the apprehension was still present, but it felt lighter, manageable. She was embarking on a quest, not just for success, but for authenticity. Would the board's skepticism still haunt her decisions? If she found a way to manifest her vision, would they stand in her way or come to see her value? Just then, her phone buzzed with a message, dragging her attention back to the present. It was from Jake. Can we meet tonight? I want to discuss how we can make this happen. The pulse of excitement coursed through her veins, invigorating her with renewed vigor. But beneath that anticipation lay the shadows of doubt. Was she truly ready to unveil her ambitions in front of him? And what if this partnership was not just about business? The personal ramifications blurred lines she had mistakenly believed were clear. As she glanced at the message again, the boundaries of their relationship felt like a frail thread. Would they catch fire or unravel with one? Miscommunication? Either way, Sarah felt a storm brewing inside her, a mix of fear and exhilaration, and she had to decide if she was prepared to ride the waves. The moment of truth was fast approaching. She remembered Jake's eyes, the earnestness she found grounding, and steeled herself for whatever lay ahead. Was she ready to claim her narrative and face the waves of consequence, pushing through fear into the vast potential that awaited her? The clock was ticking, and tonight would be illuminating. The small cafe where Sarah agreed to meet Jake buzzed with anticipation, a clamor mirroring her internal state. She arrived early, the air thick with the rich scent of roasted coffee and fresh pastries. She needed this meeting to go well, but the weight of expectation pressed against her chest, constricting her thoughts. With each passing second, she wrestled with self-doubt. The urgency for clarity collided with fear of vulnerability. What if Jake didn't see her vision the way she did? As she occupied a corner table, her fingers raked nervously through her hair. She pulled out her notes, aligning them neatly, trying to evoke confidence through order. The detailed plan she'd painstakingly crafted just hours before now appeared both ambitious and naive. Jake had become a beacon of support, but he was also a towering figure in her world, a successful entrepreneur with a track record that made her feel small. She scanned the cafe for him, fighting against her inner monologues that warned of impending failure. The soft sound of the bell above the door broke her concentration, and she heart raced again, but this time with excitement as she spotted him. Jake entered, a welcome breath of fresh air among the bustling crowd. He smiled, and that simple gesture disarmed her. "Hey, Sarah," he greeted, sliding into the seat across from her. His casual demeanor contrasted sharply with the storm inside her. She could feel the tension in her shoulders. It was time to shift her thinking from fear to purpose. "Thanks for meeting with me," she said, trying to sound casual despite the urgency in her voice. "I wouldn't miss it. I'm really excited to hear more about your ideas," Jake replied, leaning in slightly, genuinely interested. Sarah steeled herself and spread her notes between them, presented like a battle plan. "I've thought about how we can create a platform for artisans. I believe it can really resonate with consumers seeking authenticity." She pointed to sections of her notes as she explained, detailing how her vision stemmed from a deep appreciation for craftsmanship and individual stories. As she spoke, she felt the apprehension starting to melt away. Jake listened intently, his head nodding along. Encouraged, she pressed on, outlining not just the practicality of her initiative, but also the emotional connection she felt to the artisan's work. Each detail she shared painted her vision vividly, transforming abstract concepts into a living narrative. But then, just as a fresh surge of confidence washed over her, Jake interjected with a cautious tone. "This is fantastic, but how do you plan to mitigate skepticism from the board? They may see it as untested territory." The question hung in the air. Realization slammed into her with brutal force. He was right. The board was known for its rigid conservatism and harsh critiques. In that moment, doubt threatened to creep back in, pushing aside the excitement she'd built. "I guess I hadn't thought deeply about their barriers," she confessed, her voice wavering. "What if they don't respond the way I hope?" Jake leaned back, his gaze unwavering. "What if they do respond positively? What if this could not only elevate your career, but allow you to carve out a legacy? You need to talk to them about the potential, not just the risks." Those words struck her like a thunderbolt, igniting a new spark within her. She wasn't just selling an idea, but an opportunity to shape how people valued craftsmanship. What if this were more than a project? What if she could turn it into a movement? Sarah watched as Jake's enthusiasm built with her narrative. The more she put herself and her passion into the plan, the more he believed in its possibility. Inspiration coursed through her as she began to visualize herself presenting this idea confidently to the board, navigating their doubts with the conviction she felt deep in her bones. "Let us prepare for that pitch together," Jake suggested, breaking her reverie. The sincerity in his voice sent currents of empowerment through her. Sarah felt the past 5 minutes, crystallizing the possibility of a working dynamic that blended both of their strengths. She had the vision, and with Jake's guidance, she could turn the skepticism she anticipated into support. "Let us do it," she affirmed, newfound determination lighting her features. As they scribbled potential strategies, a thought struck her. Beyond their partnership defined by business, what if they became more than colleagues? That question hung in the air, charged with unspoken possibilities. Could their collaboration bloom into something deeper, or would the weight of professional expectations overshadow any personal connections? Sarah's heart raced as she considered the road ahead, tinged with promise and unpredictability. Tonight was about more than just a vision. It was a beginning. What if revelations awaited her that could pull her even further from the fear that held her captive? The next morning, Sarah sat at her kitchen table, staring at her laptop screen like it was a portal to another dimension. The sun streamed through the window, illuminating scattered papers, digital notes, and half-full coffee cups, remnants of her sleepless night. She felt the surge of determination from her meeting with Jake pulsing through her, propelling her towards an important deadline. Her heart raced at the thought of presenting her ideas to the board, but with each shift in thought, the specter of self-doubt lurked persistently. Digging into her research on competitor models revealed a landscape ripe with opportunities and risks. She couldn't ignore the stakes. The next day's pitch wasn't just about selling a project. It was about her place in the entrepreneurial ecosystem. It didn't take long before her excitement twisted itself into a tight knot of anxiety. What if they dismissed her? What if they laughed at her aspirations? Each startup success story she rifled through felt distant and foreign. She questioned why she felt unworthy of that narrative. Her mind flitted back to Jake's counsel. Potential, not just risks, he had said, as if those words were a lifeline thrown to her in a choppy sea of uncertainty. She realized this was her moment of choice, a fork in the road of her professional development. As the clock ticked toward noon, she decided to flip her apprehension into actionable strategies. The board needed numbers. They needed a strong data presentation, something tangible to grasp beyond her enthusiasm. She dove into crafting an outline that incorporated not just her vision, but also potential growth metrics, market comparisons, and case studies of similar ventures that succeeded against the odds. With every graph and bullet point she created, her confidence grew, nudging out the paralyzing doubts that had threatened to take hold. Each piece of information was like scaffolding, building up her fortress of ideas. But underneath it all lay an unexpected layer of vulnerability. If her vision were to truly resonate, wouldn't she need to weave in her own narrative? In reflecting on the artisan's stories she wished to elevate, Sarah wondered what narratives governed her own life. Had she been a secondary character in her journey up to now, too afraid to claim her space to shine? As she typed fervently, integrating her sense of self into the pitch, she realized how personal her connection was to her idea. The pulse of her own truth and the artisan's struggles beat together, forging a compelling thesis. Hours later, Jake called. "How's the prep going?" His voice was an anchor amidst her whirlwind of thoughts. "It's coming together. I'm finally feeling more grounded," she confessed, but there was hesitation woven into her tone. "Good. Just remember," he said, almost teasingly, "don't forget to showcase the passion. The numbers matter, but so does your heart." Those words lingered after they hung up. She took a deep breath, glancing at the mirror across the hallway. Who was she today? A nervous wreck or a burgeoning entrepreneur? She touched up her appearance, aligning her posture to project confidence, a stark contrast to the earlier version of herself hunched over the kitchen table, filled with uncertainty. In this moment, she recognized the power of duality. She was both the architect of her future and a work in progress. Courage didn't mean the absence of fear, but confronting that fear head-on, an intricate dance between vulnerability and audacity. That evening, as she continued rehearsing in front of the mirror, her pitch morphed into a performance, every word carefully chosen but genuine. A wave of resolve washed over her as she envisioned managing the inevitable skepticism of the board, seeing herself as a force of insightful passion, the heartbeat behind the pitch. She paused, a thought colliding with her surging confidence. What if Jake's supportive role transformed into something more than collaboration? With each passing second, the unresolved nature of that possibility gnawed at her thoughts. With the pitch looming above her, and these newfound sparks of curiosity, she found herself asking, could her professional aspirations and possible personal connections culminate into something unexpected? A flash of determination rippled through her. The next day, not only would she confront the board, but perhaps she would also confront her feelings for Jake, a complication she had yet to navigate. Sarah's heart raced at the thought. She was ready for the challenge ahead, but how would she balance her ambitions with the emotions tethered to her partnership? The line between business and personal blurred, and she realized, no matter the outcome, she was standing on the precipice of transformation. The stakes were higher than ever, and the moment of truth was drawing near. As dawn broke, Sarah awoke with a jolt. The weight of the impending pitch pressed down on her chest, but this time, there was an undercurrent of excitement intertwined with her anxiety. She stood before her reflection, every line on her face a testament to her growing resolve. The woman staring back was someone who had trudged through the muck of uncertainty, but was now ready to stride forward, arms wide open to the possibilities ahead. Today, her life felt like a carefully constructed balance beam. One misstep could lead to disaster. But as she brewed her coffee, She recalled Jake's words about passion intersecting with precision, and they echoed in her mind like a lifeline. Drawing inspiration from that, she decided she would not only analyze numbers, but share her personal narrative, entwining her purpose with those of the artisans she aimed to empower. It was her time to step into the spotlight, however daunting it may feel. Arriving at the meeting room, she took in the sight: polished wood, high-backed chairs, and the board members' anticipatory expressions. Each face told a different story of skepticism, experience, and ambition. With a glance toward the imposing wall clock, time felt suspended, and the moment of truth approached. As she began her presentation, her heart raced, words flowing fluidly. The slides, showcasing market data and growth potential, seemed like mere scaffolding next to the raw energy harnessed in her delivery. She pushed through the initial nerves, allowing her passion to saturate every phrase. The board members nodded, and within their nods, she felt validation crack through the ice of her self-doubt. Yet amidst her burgeoning confidence, a flicker of apprehension remained. It was the very scenario she had feared. What happened when she hit the vulnerable notes, integrating her own struggles into the professional narrative? Would they see her as a visionary, or would it open the floodgates to derision? But as she recounted her initial motivation, a longing to bridge the gap between artisans and the mainstream market, infused with her personal journey of creative struggles, Sarah saw a shift. Their stern expressions transformed, softening as they leaned in, and for the first time, she felt an authentic connection. In that moment, something immense unfurled within her. It was not just a pitch. This was her truth being recognized, a signal to all present that vulnerability was a strength, not a weakness. A surge of adrenaline pushed the fear out of her chest, allowing the genuine connection to ripple throughout the room. In a pause, she sensed Jake's presence behind her, steady, an unspoken support radiating from him. As she locked eyes with him, a mixture of professional collaboration and personal intrigue surged between them. The stakes were not only about the pitch now. They had evolved to encompass something deeper, a moment that could redefine their partnership. Rounding off her presentation with growth projections and impact strategies, she extended an invitation for dialogue. I want to hear your thoughts. This isn't just my vision, it's ours collectively. Her words resonated through the room, leaving her exposed yet emboldened. As questions and discussions unfolded, Sarah noticed the board members growing increasingly engaged, voicing their critiques in a constructive manner. They had transitioned from harsh skeptics to potential allies ready to nurture the project she had conceived. But amid the excitement, an unsettling honesty emerged. Were her emotional ties to Jake clouding her judgment? What would happen if she succumbed to this personal allure while maintaining their professional endeavor? Navigating through the dialogue, Sarah grasped the essence of her own uncertainty. Her feelings for Jake, once overshadowed by ambition, now begged for acknowledgement. As the pitch wound down and the applause of support washed over her, a new dilemma crystallized. How would she reconcile this burgeoning personal connection with her commitment to the project's success? She stepped down from the front, exhilaration swirling in her mind. The moment was brimming with potential, yet shadows of personal conflict began to creep in. Balancing her heart and her vision was suddenly more complex than she'd anticipated. As celebrations ensued, Sarah felt a pull, torn not just between ambition and affection, but between who she had been and who she could become. With the uncertainties ahead of her coalescing into a single question, Sarah faced the unfolding horizon. Could her heart withstand the tempest of a dual journey? The answer loomed ominously, beckoning her to uncover hidden depths within herself. The time had come to confront not only the board's expectations, but the very fabric of her own desires intertwined with the burgeoning feelings for Jake. Sarah stepped into the corridor, where the air felt electric with the residual energy from the meeting. Applause still rang in her ears, yet her heart thumped with uncertainty. Every smile and nod from the board members had ignited a spark, but the warmth faltered under the weight of her unresolved feelings for Jake. Did her drive for professional success clash with an emerging vulnerability? She found a quiet corner by a large window, the sun pouring light across her day planner strewn with frantic notes and ideas for future projects. As she flipped through pages of potential plans, a sense of overwhelming clarity erupted. The numbers on the pages no longer just represented financial projections. They echoed her ambitions, her sacrifices, and her journey. Yet buried within that ambition was fear of losing herself, of grappling if Jake's presence was a source of support or distraction. The hustle of the office, once energizing, felt stifling now. She needed to dissect her feelings, to understand if her budding affection for Jake was pure admiration or an entangled web of misunderstanding, especially with their project now so entwined. Running her fingers through her hair, she contemplated the implications of their relationship. Intimacy could either propel her or tether her to uncertainty. Her thoughts swirled with what-ifs as she rejoined everyone in the main room, where celebrations had begun in earnest. Laughter filled the space, but the buoyant atmosphere accentuated her turmoil. She needed a strategy not merely for the project, but personally. How could she navigate these conflicting tracks of her life efficiently? A deep-rooted recognition sparked within her. Self-discovery was essential, not only as a leader, but as a person striving for balance. Jake caught her eye from across the room, his charming smile rooted in sincerity. This wasn't just a professional connection. He'd become a crucial part of her narrative. Yet was it time to confront the duality of their relationship? Each stride toward him felt both exhilarating and terrifying, as if she were edging toward an unseen cliff. "Sarah," he said, his voice steady and inviting, "you were incredible today. I'm so proud of you." The warmth in his eyes drew her closer, yet she hesitated. She was navigating an emotional minefield, the stakes exacerbated now that the project had received positive feedback. "I appreciate that, Jake. But can we talk? I need to figure something out." The words escaped her lips before she could calculate their impact. Instantly, she felt her confidence waver as the air shifted around them. He nodded, seriousness creeping into his gaze. They moved to a less crowded area, isolated enough to grant them privacy, yet not so far removed that they felt lost. The energy between them thickened as uncertainty and excitement mingled. They were two partners suspended in a moment that demanded clarity. "I want to ensure we're on the same page moving forward," she began, her voice a mix of determination and vulnerability. "This project means everything to me, but so does our partnership. The lines they're starting to blur, and I don't know where I stand." Jake's expression shifted, the playfulness gone as he processed each word. "I feel the same, Sarah. I admire your vision, your resilience. But what about us? Where does this lead?" His question hung heavy, resonating in the space between them. They were teetering on an emotional precipice. Could they redefine their partnership as something robust while navigating these uncharted waters of personal longing? The crossroads loomed before her, an impending moment that demanded an answer. With her heart pounding, Sarah took a breath, ready to confront the truth not just about Jake, but about herself. The intersection of her professional life and her personal desires was inevitable, and the stakes had risen higher than ever. As she steeled herself to dive deeper into both her ambitions and this burgeoning connection, a realization blazed in the back of her mind. This defining moment could pivot her future forever. "What if we explore where this leads?" she asked, already sensing the gravity in her voice. Would they intertwine their ambitions, or would they crash against the rocks of uncertainty? The answer loomed, cloaked in the tension of the moment, begging to be discovered. Sarah felt the ground shift beneath her as she awaited his response, fully aware that the journey ahead might redefine everything she had just begun to understand about herself. Sarah's pulse quickened at her own question. The air around them felt charged, every breath infused with the weight of potential decisions. She scoured Jake's face for understanding, searching for a sign that he was as committed to untangling their connection as she was. His brow furrowed, the flicker of concern overshadowing the warmth that had ignited hope moments ago. "What do you mean by exploring?" He finally replied, his voice lowered, cautious. Her mind raced through permutations of their futures, the delicate threads of professionalism and personal connection woven intricately together. "I mean, let us assess our partnership, see where our ambitions align, and where our feelings might take us." She watched as the corners of Jake's mouth twitched, a reluctant smile breaking through the tension, but his eyes remained serious. "You realize that could complicate things, right? What if it doesn't work out?" Sarah knew he was right. The potential for disaster loomed large, but so did an opportunity for something groundbreaking. In that moment, a profound sense of clarity washed over her. This was not only about Jake. It was about her journey towards self-assertion and understanding her own value, both in a professional capacity and in her personal life. Complications can lead to breakthroughs, she countered, feeling the steely resolve rebuild within her. We both care deeply about our work, and I can't imagine losing either something intense from our partnership or the potential that we could be greater than the sum of our parts. His gaze deepened, contemplating the trail of her thoughts. Perhaps he could sense her determination, igniting something within him too. Yet doubt lingered, clouding his features. What if our feelings lead to conflict? We have a business to think about. And what if this leads to a stronger foundation, both personally and professionally? I'd rather risk a misstep than wonder what if, she replied, her sincerity pushing through the doubt. Silence hung between them, heavy with unspoken words, the systematic insights of her mind intermingling with the chaotic flutter of her heart. Uncertainty, once intimidating, transformed into the pulse of excitement. Could she really step into this new territory? Jake leaned against the wall beside them, absorbed in contemplation. You're brave, Sarah. I admire that. But, he hesitated, if we decide to take that leap, we need to go in knowing that it could change everything. I know, Sarah said, and a newfound confidence swelled within her. But change is needed if we want to grow. I believe we can navigate this together. We have a solid foundation from our work, but I want to know if there's more beneath. Jake studied her, his expression a blend of apprehension and intrigue. All right, let us be honest with each other. But we have to keep our business and personal life separate. Understood? A rush of relief flooded her, a smile breaking their tension. Agreed. Let us take it one step at a time. As they stood there, the weight of their mutual commitment developed a pact, one built on professionalism intertwined with a budding intimacy. It was daunting, and yet, for the first time, Sarah felt a flicker of genuine excitement against the uncertainty. Redefining their connection would require adaptability, openness, and above all, resilience. Yet, lurking beneath the surface was the unease of what lies ahead. The fallout of blurred boundaries, potential conflicts in passion and profession. Would she hold the line or risk it all? Suddenly, the soft ping of Sarah's phone broke into her thoughts. She glanced down. It was a text from an investor, a chance for a meeting that could redefine everything for their project. Looks like the stakes just went even higher, she said hesitantly, locking eyes with Jake. Instead of crumbling under the pressure, she felt invigorated. The moment had come to face the multifaceted challenges of her career, to harness the energy of both her work and her growing relationship with Jake. The journey had just begun, and the potential for failure or success felt daunting, yet undeniably thrilling. Could she pioneer a path that blurred personal ambition with newfound affection? What was the next test that awaited them? As adrenaline coursed through her veins, a realization gnawed at her. Opportunity and risk were entwined. And now, it was time to seize both. The warmth of dawn spilled into Sarah's kitchen, gently illuminating the remnants of her notes and the lingering scent of fresh coffee. Today was the day when dreams would meet reality, culminating in her first pitch to the investors. She felt the excitement brewing within her chest, tempered only by the anxiety that had become an unwelcome companion over the weeks. She took a steadying breath, reflecting on her journey thus far. The path from her humble beginnings to standing before ambitious faces had been a metamorphosis fueled by courage and raw vulnerability. No longer was she the timid waitress hustling for her next paycheck. She had transformed into a woman with a vision, someone with the conviction to harness her dreams and manifest them into existence. When she dressed that morning, she selected a dress that echoed her newfound strength, simple yet powerful. As she studied her reflection, she noticed something significant. She had claimed her identity, merging professional ambition and personal authenticity into one tangible persona. The world beyond that mirrored glass would see her not just as a rising entrepreneur, but as Sarah, a mother fighting for a better life for her children. The meeting venue was a stark contrast to her usual environment. With polished floors and sleek conference tables, it screamed success. Yet, as she walked into the boardroom, nerves fluttered in her stomach. The reality of the stakes hit her anew. It was more than just her idea at risk. It was a collective vision that strapped her heart to her aspirations. Each investor in the room looked like a fortress, She caught Jake's reassuring smile from across the table. It worked like a charm, dispelling her trepidation. He had walked this road before, and his quiet confidence radiated stability. Together, they had combined their strength in ambitious entrepreneur with an established investor, forging into the uncharted territory of collective potential. As the meeting commenced, Sarah transitioned into her element. She poured her passion into the presentation, effortlessly weaving her powerful narrative between statistics and insights. Her idea, a platform connecting artisans directly to consumers, was more than just a business. It was a lifeline for small creators and a chance to revive the appreciation for authentic work. The board listened, intrigued, and she could see their expressions shifting from skepticism to contemplation. Imagine a world where every purchase comes with a story, she invoked, allowing her enthusiasm for the project to fuel the atmosphere. Each response from the investors felt like forging a deeper connection, not just a transactional exchange of ideas, but a collaboration rooted in shared belief. After sharing her vision, Sarah anticipated fear, but the feedback had turned into encouragement. Your platform promotes authenticity in a time when consumers crave transparency, one investor remarked. A wave of validation washed over her. They saw the potential, and it felt like the walls of doubt crumbled around her. Stepping further into her journey, Sarah recalled the words shared with Jake during the storm of their relationship conversations. She recognized how this business endeavor revealed not just professional growth, but also the intertwining of her personal journey. Together, her burgeoning affection for Jake and their shared ambitions solidified a narrative that fueled her spirit, pushing her beyond fear into courage. As the meeting neared its conclusion, a pivotal moment arrived when an investor leaned forward, locking eyes with her. If we proceed, will you and Jake be able to distinguish between personal feelings and business ethics? That's paramount for this partnership's success. In that moment, Sarah felt the weight of their nascent relationship. The answer tumbled forth, clear as a bell. Absolutely. We've established boundaries. Our shared commitment to this project will guide us. She felt Jake's steady presence behind her resolution, a unity reinforcing her words. The meeting adjourned with a commitment to discussion. A purchase order felt within reach, a tangible representation of her journey. Her determination crystallized in that boardroom together with Jake's support. But beyond the professional triumph hovered the acknowledgement of something larger, a burgeoning relationship that would require finesse and clarity. As Sarah exited the building, the weight of accomplishment settled over her like a warm cloak. The adrenaline coursed through her, blending with the confidence that now brimmingly defined her. She had done it. She had conquered a pivotal moment in her life. Turning to Jake, who had followed her, she felt a rush of fullness. We did it, she shared, and their eyes met, a reflection of shared victory and burgeoning connection. Together, he affirmed, his voice deep and unwavering. In that moment, they were two souls intertwined by their passions, their ambitions elevated by mutual understanding, and every conversation that led them here. But the journey didn't end here. As she left the building beside him, Sarah knew that their relationship would require balance, nurturing, and clarity. What they had forged as partners must evolve intentionally. Their hopes, now aligned, would yield greater strength within both the business venture and their emotional connection. You're incredible, Jake said, breaking their shared contemplation. The way you steered today, that was remarkable. Thank you for believing in me, she replied softly, her heart swelling with pride. It was a moment where vulnerability had transformed into strength, intertwining their pathways, professional and personal, into a promising future. And in that spirit, Sarah realized that true fulfillment emerged not merely from ambition, but from authentic connections forged in trust. Today was more than a meeting or a successful pitch. It signified a new beginning, a canvas waiting for colors anew. It was time to capture the fullness of life, the challenges, the joys, and the undeniable journey of love intertwined with purpose. You need to subscribe now to be part of this transformational journey. This is the moment to show your support and witness the exclusive emotional stories that await. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep the momentum flowing. Comment your reactions and theories about this conclusion. Your insights might just inspire someone else. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this life-changing finale.